Hi everyone, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to show you today how to do a version of a spiral bracelet. A little bit of a variety, I would say, on the helix bracelet using some SuperDuo beads. I have some Christmas colors here that I've gone with, and it's a really slinky bracelet that has a look to it here. For your beads and your materials, you are going to need a thread zap or a nice scissors. You're also going to need a size 10 or 12, I prefer 10, English beading needle. You're going to need some .006 or .008 wildfire beading thread. You're going to need about 5 to 8 feet of that, depending on the length that you want to do. In addition to those, I have a flat nose pliers here, and I use the flat nose pliers just to help me kind of squash down the end so I can thread my needles. I also have size 11O seed beads, and these are in a gold lined opal. I have silver lined red, silver lined red, just transparent olive, and I have a cream colored cube, and these are 3mm cubes. In addition to that, I have SuperDuos, and I'm using the bronze color of SuperDuos. My example here that I'm showing you, I've used 8 OC beads as well, so there's a lot of variety that you can use. You can also use 8 OC beads instead of cubes, so depending on what you want to use, that's going to depend on basically the size that your spiral is going to get. So other than the beads, the thread, and the needle, the only other thing that you'll need is a clasp, and we'll get to that at the end, and that can be one of your choosing. It's going to depend what beads you use, how you want to clasp the end of it, because I have this one unfinished, so I can show you the size of this tubular versus the size with the smaller 11 OC beads. So we'll get to that when we get ready and go with our pattern. So I've got all of my beads lined up here in a specific pattern of 11O, SuperDuo, cube, cube, cube. It's up to you which kind of pattern and color pattern you want to do, but I'm just using the nice Christmas colors here. What I've done is I've put a stop bead onto the bottom of my thread. So here's my thread, and I have a stop bead on. I just have a little 3mm pearl on there. The stop bead is going to stop my beads from falling off the end as I'm working with this. All I do for a stop bead is take the needle through the pearl 2 times, going from the tail towards the long end, towards the tip. We also have other videos that you can watch in order to know how to do the stop bead if you need a little bit more details for that. So this bracelet is going to start out with a pattern of 11O, then a SuperDuo, then another 11O goes on your thread, a cube, and after all of my cubes, right after, are always going to be a SuperDuo. After a SuperDuo, you're always going to follow with an 11O. Next, I'm going to do my next color of my cube, my white cube, SuperDuo, 11O. Green cube, SuperDuo, 11O. So that's my pattern there that I have. My starting pattern is that each cube is followed by a SuperDuo. It's only at the very start, in the beginning, that the pattern is different, that it's 11, SuperDuo, 11, and then into the cube pattern. I'm going to let these drop down next to my stop bead and let them hang out right there next to my stop bead. To round out the spiral, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the top hole of my first SuperDuo that I put on. So the first SuperDuo that's next to the stop bead, I'm going to go through the top empty hole. So my thread and needle originally went through the bottom hole. Now I'm going to go through the top hole. When I pull that tight, I'm going to get the size of the sphere that I'm creating. So that's how big my bracelet is going to be. You can see it's just a little bit bigger than this one here because I'm using 11Os. Give a nice tight pull. After that, I'm going to continue my pattern. And I've started again with my red, so I'm going to pick up a red, then a SuperDuo, then an 11O. I'm going to let that drop down next to my project. And I'm going to pick up the next SuperDuo that's in line from the first row. So this would be on the other side of the original red bead. And I'm putting that through the second hole of that SuperDuo. I'm going to pull. You're going to see that sit right on top of the other one. Next, my pattern is white, so I'm going to put on a white seed bead, a SuperDuo, and my 11-0, and I'm going to go through the SuperDuo after the first white. So whatever color I'm sewing into the SuperDuo that's right after, that's the color that I'm going to add. So that's my next cube that I have on. Next would be my green cube, so I'm going to add my green cube, my SuperDuo, my 11-0, and I'm going to sew through the top hole of the SuperDuo on the other side of the green. That is now one complete rotation of my pattern. And it's going to look a little funny until you get it sitting, that they're going to sit next to one another rather than on top of one another. If you want to, you can grab a knitting needle or a dowel, and that will help kind of keep your beads in order. The nice thing with this versus a regular helix is you have the SuperDuo, so you know which one is on top. After I come out of that last green SuperDuo, I'm going to continue with my red. So again, the pattern is your cube, your SuperDuo, and your 11. And you're going to go through the SuperDuo on the row before of the same color that you just put on. And that's going to start that pattern. Next is my white, SuperDuo, 11-0, through the SuperDuo next to row 2 of my white one. That's my third bead in line. Next I'm going to get ready to put on my green bead. So my green bead goes on, my SuperDuo, and then my 11-0. And then I'm going to sew through my next SuperDuo. That's there and ready to go. And that's going to get my 3 rotation. So you can see the spiral starting to happen here. And you can see it a lot more in the example as we build. You can see the spirals of that red, that crystal color, and the green. And I'm going to continue doing that same pattern over and over with my cubes, followed by my SuperDuo, followed by an 11, and then sew through the top hole of the SuperDuo from the row below, right after that same color that I put on. And the SuperDuos make it really easy, like I said, to know exactly where you are, because there's an empty one sitting right there that I know I need to sew into. And you're continuing your pattern right along of the cube, the SuperDuo, the 11, and sewing through. It's a little bit difficult to hold on to at first. As you build more and more onto it, it makes it easier. That's why I said if you want to aid yourself with a knitting needle or a dowel, it will depend which beads and what style of beads you use, which size dowel you'll need in between here. If you're a Viking knit person, you probably have dowels in different sizes, so that's a good thing. Also, if you're a knitter and you have large knitting needles, those work well. Continuing my pattern the whole way around, and I'm ready to put on another red bead. I'm going to continue this stitch in this pattern. You can really see it going in place now. You can see the red and the green and the white. I'm going to continue to do this the whole length of my bracelet, just building and building and building. So you can see now my pattern's getting bigger and my project's growing longer. And you can see the spiral of the Christmas colors starting to happen. And again, I'm going to just show another rotation of it. All I'm doing is I'm picking up a cube, a SuperDuo, an 11-0, sewing through the last SuperDuo next to the last red bead. Next my white color. On goes my pattern. Sew through the SuperDuo next to the last white bead. On goes my green. SuperDuo 11. Sew through the last SuperDuo next to my green cube. And I'm just continuing that pattern the whole way along, making my necklace, bracelet, necklace center, whatever you want it to be. And it's just going to continue to grow. So I'm done the complete length of my bracelet here, and just an idea if you want to make it look more like a candy cane, you could actually just do the red and the white. And you could, if you wanted to get some green, and you could switch the SuperDuos to a green color. And all I'm going to do to put on my clasp is I'm going to use a little V pattern here. And I'm going to do a little triangle coming out of my seed beads, just like I did for this spiral step bracelet. This is another video, by the way. And to do that little V, what I'm going to do is basically I've gone through one more rotation of my SuperDuos here. And I'm going to finish off by just adding my cube and a seed bead and going through that last hole of the SuperDuo. So I've added the red one. I'm going to add just the white one, a cube, and a seed bead, and go through the next. So this is finishing off all those holes of those SuperDuo beads. And last, I'm going to do a green and one of my seed beads and go through that SuperDuo. So that kind of finishes up that little section there, and it brings a little bit tighter in. And then what I'm going to do is get ready to attach my clasp with the seed beads and attaching my button. So to start out my little V pattern, what I'm actually going to do is, I've had to add a little bit more thread here, and I'm going to bring my bead over to this side, just adding a seed bead. I'm going to sew through my next cube in line and coming out a seed bead. And that's just going to kind of close that up completely. So coming out of a seed bead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 5 seed beads onto my needle. I'm going to go through the back end of my clasp. Then I'm going to run the thread and needle back through those original 5 seed beads. This is a great way to end anything that is tubular, especially a bracelet like this. It kind of has a slinky feel to it. You can kind of expand and contract it. You could make it a roll-on also if you wanted. When you're coming out then of your seed beads and your clasp, I'm going to sew through the next SuperDuo, the white cube, and I'm going to come out of the next seed bead in line. Again, I'm going to add 5 more seed beads, and I'm going to sew through my button backside again. Got caught on my pliers here. Then what I'm going to do is same thing as I did before, so back down that line of seed beads. When my needle comes out that line of seed beads, I'm going to also sew through right away the SuperDuo, the cube, and the seed bead, because I want to come out on the side of a seed bead. Give a nice little tight pull. Make sure I'm not linked around my button here. That's going to be my little second loop, so that it doesn't hang off to the side and leave that big open gap. That's why I'm adding a third loop. If you would be making your spiral bigger and having more of a really open, bigger casing to it, you could even add more points to your clasp here to connect. 5 more seed bead go on my needle. Attach through the back of the clasp. And again, run my thread and needle back through those 5 seed beads, down towards my project, through the SuperDuo bead, and out right next to a seed bead. I'm going to reinforce this a little bit, and then I'll do my clasp on the other side. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to repeat what I originally did, reinforcing it, and then I'm going to tie it off somewhere here in my project. And now I'm going to go to the other side and make a loop on the other side. So when I get to the end of my thread, I'm going to the starting point, I take off my stop bead. So I just took off my little pearl here. And then what I'm going to do is get ready to put on my loop that my clasp can fit into. So I don't need to make the loop too big, I just need to make it big enough that my little button there will fit through. And what I'm going to do is show you how to tie on more thread. So if I would have thought ahead, what I should have done is left more of like a 10-inch tail and then I wouldn't have had to do this, but instead I left a 3-inch. To add more thread, what you're going to do is take the new piece of thread that you're using, and I'm going to tie this in a knot around the old piece of thread. That allows this piece to move up and down my existing thread. I give a nice tight pull, push it into place, and then I'm going to take the 2 tails, my new thread and then my starter piece, and tie them together nice and tight. I do that 2 times, tying those tails together. And then what I'm going to do is burn or cut them just so they have a little bit of a tail left to them, so that way I know exactly where I need to come back and glue. After cutting them off, I'm ready to go with my new piece of thread. I'm going to basically mimic the other side here. This side is already started a little bit to make that smaller. It doesn't have those SuperDuos that I need to sew back through. But what I am going to do is link the 2 sides together by sewing through the seed bead that's there and through my cube. I'm pulling tight. It's going to link those 2 sides together. Once I'm coming out here, I'm going to do that same triangular shape, but I'm going to make a little bit of a loop after it. So I'm going to add a ton of seed beads onto my thread here, and needle. And I'm adding enough again that I can have this big enough to go around the button. So I'm not quite there yet, I need to keep going. I think that's about good. And then what I'm going to do is bring it down on the opposite side. So you just kind of need to figure out where that opposite side is. And I'm going to sew along, then through the seed beads, back towards the original start of my loop. And if you watch any other of my videos, I really like to do peyote on my loops, so it reinforces it a little bit. And if you want to, and you don't want to have it that it looks like it's coming kind of off-centered, you can do that triangular shape and attach to kind of the corner pieces here. I'm going to be lazy and just do my single loop. Once I come around here, back to the start of the loop, and kind of pull it together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up the loop, and I'm going to add my peyote. Here would be a cute place too that you could add another color of your seed bead if you wanted, especially if you were doing that candy cane look. You could do red and white. I'm going to sew through the first seed bead in my loop, have my thread come out, add another seed bead, skip a bead, and go through the 3rd bead in line. Then I'm going to add a bead, skip bead 4, go through bead 5. If you need help with peyote too, you can check out a bunch of our other videos that go over this peyote stitch. But basically I'm adding a bead and then stitching through the odd counts of my beads that are on my loop. I'm pushing those down as I go. I'm going to continue this peyote stitch the whole way around my project. If you're not crazy about this opening out here, you can do another row with either 8-ohs or alternating your pattern with 1 11, 1 11, and then 2 11s. That'll kind of take some of the place. And then again, sew your peyote with 1 11, sew through, 1 11, sew through, and then 2. That makes a good gap filler for that peyote row. Continuing along, I'm going to continue just that peyote pattern, pulling as you go to make it look like that little brick there. Peyote always looks like a brick wall to me. And you're going to continue sewing right along. Once I'm done my peyote stitch, I'm going to sew back into my project and knot it off. Once you're done your peony loop, you're done with your project. And like I said, it's a nice kind of slinky, fun bracelet to wear. You can do this in any colors, any pattern, and you really can switch out for any beads. The SuperDuos make it go really, really quickly and really, really have a nice effect to it. And I really do like this Christmas kind of theme to it. I have tiny wrists, so I made it a little bit bigger than it normally would be for me. But all you're going to do then is just clasp your button on, and you have your nice spiral bracelet with your SuperDuo beads that you can switch out for kind of any other beads to go along with it. So hopefully you enjoyed this. It gives you an idea to make some fun and not so just Christmas bead jewelry. And if you get a chance, check out our other YouTube videos. We'd love for you to comment on them. Tell us exactly what you want to see as well. I love to get ideas and pointers that help to make us better, as well as help you to become better beaders. So thanks a lot for watching. If you get a chance, check out the rest of our YouTube videos and our Facebook page. You can check us out also online at potomacbeads.com. Check out the locations page and visit a store near you. You can also shop online if you need materials and you're not near a store at thebeadco.com. Thanks a lot for watching, and happy holidays.